Bears fall to the Saints 24-17 on the road. Bears had 5 different chances in the second half to gain 7 points back on this team. An absolute disaster, as always. I am joined alongside my good friend, Vil from 3 Point Stand. Instant reaction of Tyson Bagent right now for you, Vil. Up, you unmute.
Sorry. Yeah, you were kind of quiet yourself on that anyway to talk. So hopefully everybody heard you and they can hear me now. What was the question? I'm sorry.
Instant reaction of Tyson Bagent.
First half, thumbs up. Second half, I think Getsy has this thing where he wants to throw a monkey wrench and make it seem like it's his idea for the quarterbacks to be good, because I don't know what happened that second half.
So Bagent was 10 for 13 in the first half with 149 passing yards, 2 touchdown passes, 6 carries for 60 yards, and yes, 1 interception. The second half, completely different story. Luke Getsy, I really think that Luke Getsy is a double agent, because his game plan in the second half, it's just so bad. Like he wasn't running the ball at all with Deontay Foreman. He had 1 angry run the entire second half. There was just nothing there. I mean, the offensive line looked terrible in the second half. That one drive where they had 4 penalties in a row, it was a disaster. The second half was an absolute disaster. I don't think the Bears scored any points in the second half. I think so. I think there was just 17. Yep. Ridiculous. So Tyson Bagent, 4 turnovers, 3 of them being interceptions, 1 fumble. Would you blame all of them on him, or are you kind of going, I don't know, maybe it was on his guys as well?
Yeah, this game is definitely all on him. Not to say that he can't correct them. I think they're all easy. As soon as you sent me that you were going live, I had just sent out a tweet saying that he threw 2 of them behind the receiver, but those are things he can correct. He can go back, look at the film, and say, okay, I need to get the timing down, because he had the right idea, threw it at the time it should have, but it seems like they were just a little off behind, especially the one with Tyler Scott, because he had mad space in front of him, like where he could just keep running. But those are things that a young quarterback will learn eventually.
And also the DJ Moore fumble, that was the big one for me. It was so unlike him. You know, he caught it over the middle. It looked like it was a 15, 16-yard gain, and Moore just looked like he didn't care. Like it just popped out, and it was a perfect punch. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But what a disappointing game. And I really think that I'm just going to loop back to it. The number one thing that lost today's game was Luke Getsy's game plan. I mean, the second half was entirely different from the first half. I'm going to break it down. I'm pulling up the box score right now for Tyson Bagent in the second half, but he wasn't doing anything that he was doing in the first half. I mean, Bagent was playing super well in the first half. And for everyone that's tuning in, thanks for tuning in this episode of Just Another Year. Make sure that you throw your comments in the comments section to chat with us. Share your frustration, what you're most frustrated about this game. But Bears lose 24-17 against the Saints. It was just, it's nuts. The Bears were dominating time of possession in the first half. They dominated nearly every single category. You come to the second half, it was a completely different ball game. Tyson Bagent, again, was 10 for 13 in the first half. He ended the game 18 for 30. So he only completed 8 of his 17 passes in the second half. He only threw for another 61 yards. He had 2 more interceptions. He had the fumble. I don't know what happened. Luke Getsy just seems to hate this squad. And I don't know, Vil, this is the question I think everyone's kind of thinking. This was Twitter was saying, but do you think Justin Fields would have done a better job out there?
I think on some of the run plays, since they seemed like they were okay with Tyson Bagent getting out there and getting him outside to throw outside of the pocket, as well as doing more runs, or at least deciding to run. I got to go back and look at the film to see if it was actually design runs, a lot more of the design runs. I think a few of them might have been, but he did run a lot more than we've seen Justin Fields do all year. And they were smart decisions. I love that if it was Bagent's idea, I love it for the kid, and I feel like if that was the case, because there were wide open areas to run all over for a quarterback. So if Justin Fields was out there, I think a couple of those might have been broke for huge gains and or touchdowns. So I feel like he would have did a lot better with the run opportunities, which would have allowed the run to continue to go. But the run game, I'm sorry, to continue to go. The passing game, we started seeing him pick up a lot better in the last two games before the Minnesota game. So I think, some of those throws he would have been able to make himself, and we would have probably been up in the fourth quarter because he would have just said, well, if the passing game ain't working, I'm gonna use my legs.
Yeah. I mean, I was impressed by Bagent's running ability today. I mean, he had some wheels, and I think his longest run of the day was 24 yards, and he looked pretty good out there. Let's talk about the positives real quickly. I think you started to hit on them because he was doing a lot of good positives today. But from an overall standpoint, I was happy to see Darnell Mooney out there. Like, absolutely. Darnell Mooney was looking like his old self. They were really getting him in the game plan. But then in the second half, they didn't pass to him at all. I think they targeted Darnell Mooney, I think in the second half, only 3 times. They were targeting Tyler Scott a lot, which that's fine. I think that's great. Like, get the rookie some reps. But if you're trying to win the game, go to your guys that are working. They targeted DJ. I mean, trust was lost with DJ Moore after the drop. But the overall box score today, let's just kind of bring it up for everybody. So Tyson Bagent went 18 for 30, 220 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. First half, though, 10 completions on 13 passes for 149 yards. So, and his 2 touchdown passes. Deontay Foreman had a really big day, 20 carries for 83 yards, 4.2 yard per average. Tyson Bagent only had 2 more rushes for another 10 yards in the second half, but finished with 8 carries for 70 yards with 8.8 yards per carry. Darnell Mooney, 5 catches, 82 yards, 16.4 yards per catch. DJ Moore, only 3 catches for 44 yards. Again, remember, that was your first round pick, or first overall pick, technically, because we traded for him. Cole Kmet, huge day. 6 catches, 55 yards, 9.2 yards per catch, 2 touchdowns. Darrington Evans, 2 catches for 19 yards. From an offensive standpoint, Bill, I mean, that all looks great on paper, but my big thing, I want to hear your thoughts on it, is DJ Moore only got 3 catches again today, technically 4 with the fumble. But you go out and trade for a number 1 wide receiver. Why are you not using him? That's just a big head scratcher for me right now.
Yeah, and it's not just not throwing his way, but utilizing them out the backfield, using them on short screens, anything that could be extensions of the run game, slants, digs, things of that nature. It's baffling because I seen on one of the plays he ran around, motioned around, and I'm thinking, oh, here we go, we're about to finally see a DJ Moore run like we used to see in Carolina, and it's like, nope. We're not going to do any gadget stuff with him, but we'll decide to do a gadget play with Cole Kmet running up the middle on 4th down. So it's like, come on, you get the ball in his hands any way possible. If they're doubling him, if they're double coverage or shading coverage over there, they use him closer to the line of scrimmage. Use him out of the backfield. Do some things where he can get into open space and use his ability to make people miss and get those yak yards.
I mean, the one Cole Kmet run on 4th down and long, and he ran for it and got the first down for, I think it was a 14-yard gain. That was great. But like you said, I'd rather see DJ Moore doing that. I think DJ Moore could have gotten more yards on it, like Mooney did when he only had an 8-yard gain, turned it into a 39-yard gain.
All right.
The offense, the weapons were doing their jobs, but he was getting it to the wrong weapons at the wrong time. I agree with what you're saying. There was just not enough time, for DJ Moore or anybody to really get going because you were just dumping it off to your tight end, or you had incompletions, or you're throwing interceptions. Overall, just a very, very just rough day. The second half, it just wasn't fun to watch. I really thought, I saw TJ was commenting over here. I really thought they had this one too. I mean, it was a good game. I was having a lot of fun watching the game. Santos, doink, miss, hurt. And then Saints had their doink in the second half. And I was like, oh my gosh, we broke the right. Bears are going to win this game. And then I forgot Luke Getsy's our offensive coordinator, and he wants to lose every game. Just terrible, terrible. Comment from Joseph R. As a great point. We only use DJ Moore in the first quarter, hardly in the second or third, and then we try to go, in the fourth. I think that was a mistype. The offensive coordination was horrible. Yeah, the play calling was terrible. And then we got Ron in here right now. I don't cut Fields any slack, so I won't cut Bagent any either. This one was on Bagent. You said that too, Bill. Do you think it was on Bagent?
Respect, Ron.
And Bagent trying to make something happen killed him. He did try in too many. In the first half, he wasn't trying. He was letting the game come to him. And he tried to be a hero. Like, he took that huge deep shot to DJ Moore in the fourth quarter. And I'm like, what? I'm like, it's 4 yards. Just get 4 yards. This is not the time to be going for deep shots. And sure enough, it was an overthrow. Moore couldn't get it. He's a rookie. But, this is a huge debate right now in Chicago, especially in Bears Twitter. And Bagent he didn't show up. He didn't show up in the second half, and it's bad. And then, Bill, going back to your point, Ron's here. Stop throwing screens when we're backed up in our own end zone. It's true.
Yeah.
Luke Getsy really just doesn't. He just isn't. He isn't the guy. He shouldn't be an offensive coordinator. He was a quarterback's assistant and a wide receiver's assistant his entire time in Green Bay. He is not a quarterback's coach. Let's go over to the defense, though, because Montez Sweat's first game as a Chicago Bear. I was getting really bothered. I'm going to call it Viper right here. And I called him out on Twitter. He's like, I'm getting a little bit annoyed that Sweat's not doing anything. And Viper tweeted that out on the third defensive possession in the first quarter. Way too early. Sweat was creating a lot of opportunities for this defense. This defense did not have any sacks today, but Derek Carr was under a ton of pressure by this defense.
Yes.
TJ Edwards had a couple hits on him. Jack Sanborn had a couple hits on him. We're going to get into all those guys. But Sweat was, he only had 2 tackles, but he was in the backfield, I felt like, almost every single play. TJ Edwards with another monster game, 15 total tackles. Jack Sanborn with a monster game, 9 tackles, 5 in the first half. I can't believe Eddie Jackson had 6 tackles. Didn't feel like it. Kyler Gordon with 3 pass deflections today. He had a hell of a game from that standpoint. And then Andrew Billings, 4 tackles, another great game for the guy we just extended. But the defense, I don't know. I thought the defense they kept the team in the game. Tyson Bagent gave up a ton of possessions and short field. I mean, Derek Carr, they haven't released the official stats yet of how many quarterback pressures he was under. But his time in the pocket, they were saying, I think it was Matt Ryan said it was under 3 seconds today. So the Bears were getting pressure. They just overall didn't actually impact it. And Montez Sweat is coming off 2 practices with the Bears. So I cut him a little bit of slack, but I think the defense did a fine job today. Bill, what were you seeing from the good and the bad on the defense?
Okay, so on the defensive side, I pretty much tweet casted the whole game. So if anybody wants to go to 3 Point Stands pod Twitter, you can pretty much get the whole game in a nutshell plus video footage because I was recording everything off my TV. But what I seen, one thing I did see and hear, Montez was only in for third down as well as situational, so he wasn't on. I'd be willing to bet that he wasn't in for more than 30, 40 snaps.
Yeah.
If that. I think he probably was in there maybe 20 or so. So when everybody was saying that they, what's going on, where is Sweat? He showed up when he showed up. Like, especially on one end, he had that Tyson Hill chase down.
That was good.
He came from the opposite end, and I posted the video to show people. He came all the way, chased him from the backfield, and ended up with a tackle 20 some odd yards down the field. So, and when he was in, he got pressure. There was one play where he had the guy a la Mac, where Mac kind of grabs people's like pads and kind of drills them back this way. And the guy was like that, driven all the way back into Derek Carr. So when he was on the field, he made an impact. But what I will say is if everybody goes back and watches the actual film, like you said, the pressure was there. The game plan was to get the ball out quickly. Derek Carr is generally that guy. He's going to get the ball out. He's not going to hold it. He's going to be decisive. And that's why, people call him a game manager per se, or a game manager plus. He may not be an Alex Smith's level, but because he can hit the deep ball pretty good. But I think the defensive line held themselves very well. But the back end, I wouldn't even say the back seven. I would say the DBs, at least, with the soft coverage being called. Tyreek Stevenson, like you said, he did pretty well.
He got benched, by the way. We'll talk about that in a sec.
Yeah, but the crazy part is you benched him, but you played soft coverage, and all they did was slants and shorts and crossers and things of that nature. There was no real deep plays that got us beat. You got Olav and Michael Thomas, who's over the last few weeks, because I have him on my fantasy team. I don't start him, but he's consistently beginning 4 to 5 catches, 60, 70 yards over the last few weeks. So you didn't hear his name called at all, but Olav, I'm trying to say his name right, was, especially in the first half, consistently getting those slants, those short, 5 to 10 yard first down makers. But they weren't really doing anything major. They went on the back end, but because everybody was playing off and you didn't allow them to challenge the wide receivers, it was an easy eat day for Carr. So I believe the defensive line, as I've said over the last few weeks, they've been getting pressure here and there. At spurts, and it's been going up. And now that Montez Sweat is in, I believe, next week they'll probably let him loose a little bit more, versus the Panthers, because you got a young rookie quarterback. So that's an opportunity for him to get his rocks off, if you will, without swearing. So I think the defense, like you said, held their own. This offense could have exploded. A lot of people expected a 30-plus point kind of victory, especially after the Chargers game with receivers like Olav and Thomas, and then you got Kamara and Tyson Hill, who, or am I saying it right? Taysom Hill, with his gadgetry and always seeming to get 100 all-purpose yards a game and 2 touchdowns, you expected way more. So other than the short fields and things that were given, I think even on those short fields, we held them to field goals a few times. So I think they're stepping it up. They're getting healthier, even though every time somebody gets healthy, somebody else is down. But I feel like they did a pretty good job.
I want to go. I agree with a lot of things you said. I want to go back to the soft cover because Ron called it out right here. The zone defense has to go. Like these defenders don't work that way. And remember, Poles is putting this team together, not Eberflus. Eberflus is not putting this team together. So I really think Poles has a long plan to have these athletic guys. He's going to bring in a whole new coaching staff next year because Eberflus just isn't the answer, especially with how he's handling his coaches, how his coaches are treating people, and then how also the game plan is. Again, terrible. I mean, you're the head coach. You're a defensive-minded guy. You're going to your offensive coordinator midway through the third quarter and go, what the hell are you doing? Why are we not doing what we were doing in the first half that was helping us win games? So I agree. The zone defense has to go. And then another call out, the officiating was terrible today. There were so many missed calls. The Saints barely had any calls today. I'm currently looking at the box score right now from a team stat perspective. Total penalties on the Saints, there was 1 for 5 yards. Bears had 8 penalties for 71 yards. And you're going to tell me something's not wrong there? There was definitely something going on with the officiating there. Let's go back to we'll get to this one in a minute, Mike, about Justin Fields, who should start, who shouldn't. And also do want to call this out again by Ron. Sanborn's name was called quite a bit today. It was great. Oh, absolutely. So want to go to the Tyreek Stevenson situation real quick. He really did not play at all in that fourth quarter. You saw Eddie Jackson out there a lot, but Eddie Jackson's a safety. That's a different situation. I want to know what happened. I want to rewatch the film. Got to rewatch the film after this live stream, which we only got a couple minutes left here. But we got to rewatch the film and see what happened. But Stevenson only had 5 tackles today, 1 solo, 4 assists. So he really wasn't doing anything. He was getting burned all day today. Jalen Jones was out there at one point over Stevenson. You're kind of wondering what's going on. Also, that penalty on Jalen Jones was terrible. Terrible. It was a clean pass deflection. I'm gonna do a whole breakdown. Bill's got the video posted as well on his Twitter. Make sure you go follow 3 Point Stand Podcast. I will say this is that there was terrible officiating today. 8 Bears penalties compared to New Orleans 1. But the soft coverage has to end. Zone coverage has to end. Need to get a coach in that uses these very athletic, talented players. But the one other thing that I have to say today is that Velus Jones Jr. has to go. He is not the answer. He was a mistake. He is not an NFL guy. He is not an NFL wide receiver. He's strictly kick returns, and you don't do that. Even though it was an incompletion on that drop, I was like, oh my God, did this guy sign his NFL contract to say, I'm going to help you lose games? It was terrible. V12 has to go. I love every Bears player on the team. He is the one guy that I just can't stand. He would have to have a touchdown every game the rest of this season to even gain half my trust back in him as a player. He isn't the guy. He messed up on Claypool. He messed up on Jones. It just isn't happening. I mean, Bill, do you feel differently about V12? Like, I'm done with him. I can't.
I can't say I do. I am one, and you just ask people to go follow me. So if they go to my YouTube, please don't scroll down and go to the Velus Jones hype train video that I created back in April when I was just hoping to put some hype into him and Claypool and some of the other guys, but just to kind of get some good moxie going, some good faith going, hoping that he would change around to at least, I mean, obviously we didn't expect him to be wide receiver 1 or 2, so just some gadget plays or whatnot. But I agree with you. The experiment is over. You know, if you're not just going to keep him back there to receive kicks, I wouldn't. Obviously, they stopped putting him back there to catch punts. Then it's time to cut him and give those opportunities, at least those offensive opportunities, more to Tyler Scott, so he can get more acquainted to the wide receiver position.
Well, Ron's coming for blood because he's saying he's absolutely holding you accountable for pumping him up. So,
I don't blame you, Ron. I don't blame you. Hey, do what you got to do. You know, I just always try to have a little positivity and optimism on our players. Maybe they can have a comeback story, but I guess not.
I don't think V12 is going to have it. It's gone too far. There's too many mistakes. And don't forget about the last punt. Our guy was being held both by the receiving team players, and they called us for that was V12. That was Jones. Jones was called again on. It's terrible. You know, there's so much. I think that out of all the roster cuts that happened during the preseason, this is one of my last comments before we close out. Remember Fountain, wide receiver, 82.
Oh yeah.
3. We should have never gotten rid of him. It should have been Jones over. It should have been Jones gone versus Fountain. I really like Fountain.
Yeah, I do too.
I think that it just isn't working. But Bill, last question of the day. Thursday night football is coming up here pretty quick. Bears Panthers. Bears want to win this game to make the Panthers pick worse. Kind of lock in that lower spot. Maybe potentially save the fan base a little bit, even though we know we're paying the Panthers. If Fields is ready, if Fields is ready, you're starting him. Obviously, you have to start him. That's a must. But for this game, is this a game that you're like whatever? Like, are you even excited for this game? Like right now, it's tough to say, but I'm not even really pumped about it right now. If we lose to the Panthers, I don't know what's going to happen to this fan base. I really don't. But it's getting bad. How you feeling for Thursday night so far?
I'd say I'm pumped about the possibility, as Ryan Poles used it in the pregame on ESPN 1000. Definitely a possibility of him playing. So I'm excited about seeing if he can capitalize off of those 2 games where he was 8 touchdowns versus 1 interception, because the Carolina's defense isn't that great. And also their offense shouldn't put very much pressure on us to have to score. So he should be able to do a lot of the things that he's been seeing Tyson Bagent do when he's playing safe, getting the ball out quick, marching the guys down the field. Our run game should be open. I would be so pissed off if they benched and inactivated Foreman from here on or whenever Herbert comes back. So if you can have Foreman and Roshan Johnson with Justin Fields out there, that could tire down and wear down the front seven so easily versus the Panthers. So that's what I'm really looking for. If you're going to open up the run game and allow Bagent to do his thing, running around and getting the ball out on the run and short, bootleg passes where people are still on the side that he's bootlegging to, then let Justin Fields do it. Because you're getting the same turnovers per se. If you were worried about ball security and interceptions, I mean, Bagent has more than Fields, or just as many as Fields in the 2 starts that he has than Fields has all season. So you're going to get turnovers regardless. So I'm excited about seeing Fields come back and see what he can do over this last half of the season.
I think that Ron raises a very, very good point. If Fields starts, I don't want to hear any excuses if he has a bad game. I'm not giving excuses for anybody anymore. Like there's none. There's none. I mean, Sweat's my last one. Sweat had it, 2 days of practice. He's going to be in the building. He's learning these guys. He had a whole game experience. You're at home. You got to make something happen. So I don't know, man. It's Thursday night's going to be fun. I know you and I are about to go rewatch this whole game. So just so everyone knows, we go and rewatch this for you guys to go break it down. So
torture.
We got a little bit of homework here to do, but Bill, any last comments before we close out?
Oh man, I'm with Ron. I agree. There shouldn't be any excuses for anybody from here on out. Just like DJ Moore had that fumble, he's been our guy. We've been wanting him to get the ball more. You're a star. You got to prove you're a star. You got to hold on to that ball. Montez Sweat should eat as long as they give him the right amount of snaps and not just put him in once every 2 or 3 series. He should eat versus Carolina because Bryce Young gets sacked a hell of a lot. So I want to see him in for at least a full game. Thanks, Mike. It's all Nick. I just come here and I ramble. But that's about it.
And Ron has a really good call out right here too. Can't wait for the draft video. I've already done one draft video. I did it on what's it called? I did it on Friday. I did it with Marvin Harrison and Olu, and everyone's already pumped about it. I think it got like 5,000 something views, and I'm just like, all right, well, I guess people are already in draft mode. So yes, Ron, plenty of draft videos are going to be coming up here in the next 5 months, unfortunately. But we still got the Bears. The Bears are still playing. Bears are 2-7. I'm praying that we get 3-7 because, hey, we tied our total from last year. That's great. Right. Ron knows me too well. He knows me too well. He knows that I'm going to come out with a video on Tuesday for Thursday night preview, and he's going to be like, there he goes, hyping up the train. All right, he brought me back. So Bill, Ron had a nice comment about you. He enjoyed your commentary. So Ron, we're going to have Bill on a lot. We do a lot of work with him. And also, just so we all know, make sure you go follow 3 Point Stand Podcast. He's a part of our channel a lot. We retweet his stuff all the time on Twitter. Make sure you go follow Bill. It was a fun game for 3.5 quarters. Ron, that was the best way to say it. It was a fun game for 3.5 quarters.
We're getting a little better.
There he goes. There goes Bill. That's the optimism right there.
We're getting a little better.
Just when I thought I was out, you pulled me back in because now I gotta go rewatch this whole entire game footage for everybody right now.
Blame Ron. He just used the 3.5 quarters, so that's almost a full game.
Yeah, it's true. You know what? One more comment before we go out because tomorrow I'm releasing the whole. I might do it tonight. I don't know. We'll see how my afternoon goes. I will say this: you made a comment about Foreman. I hope the Bears move Travis Homer and keep Darrington Evans. And if they don't do that, Foreman, release him, let him go to a contender. He is the guy that deserves to go to a contender right now. I mean, Darrington too, but I like Darrington a lot. I like him being on the Bears. But Foreman's done his job. And, that is what it is. Ron, been married for decades, so you can blame me for everything. I don't care. Ron gets it. And we're drinking the Kool-Aid.
My wife's in the chat, so I can't confirm or deny.
And she really thought we were going to win this one. So she's drinking the Kool-Aid too. I know she's upstairs laughing right now. She's probably like, she's going to come downstairs and be like, Nick's calling me out now on the show. I'm not commenting anymore. No, we're good. And Mike, thanks for tuning in. Joseph R., thanks for tuning in. Thanks for everyone for tuning in this episode. Again, here with Bill from 3 Point Stand Podcast. Make sure you go follow him on Twitter and on YouTube. We'll be back. Stay tuned for full game film breakdown. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, but it was a more entertaining game than usual. But with that, guys, thank you very much for joining this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. Bill, stay on for a sec before after we close out the live stream. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Nice seeing you guys all. Bear down, as always. Hit the like button and make sure that you hit that subscribe button as well as support all of our channels. Thanks, guys, and bear down.